Let's send you to Calgary now, the Stampeders and the BC Lions.
Thank you, Rod. Good afternoon from McMahon Stadium. Game 72, the CFL regular season finale, with the site of the Western Semi still to be determined. We played 7 minutes of this opening quarter, still scoreless, but the BC Lions, after taking a punt at midfield, have a first down at the Stampeder 40-yard line. And Buck Pierce with a throw complete. Paris Jackson with 6 to the 34. Here are the starting quarterbacks for today's game, brought to you by Wendy's.
Well, even though this game means nothing in the standings for the Calgary Stampeders, John Hufnagel has said he will go with Henry Burris for at least the first half, possibly longer, the outstanding player nominee for the Stamps. And Buck Pierce has taken all the #1 reps during the practice week. He's got a tender ankle, but he has started this football game as well.
Each team has a pair of first downs in the game, 2nd and 4. And Buck Pierce complete. And Clarence Coleman jarred out. Lenny Walls the tackle.
Two of the hottest teams in the second half of the season, are the hottest teams in the CFL, winning 7 of their last 8. Wally Buono's team on quite a roll, as is John Hufnagel's squad.
But early in the season, well, the season opener, and then week 8, Wally Buono's team lost against John Hufnagel, so the Stampeders come into this game with the tiebreaker, and that's why they have clinched first.
Early and oftener.
The Lions need to win here to get their 5th straight home field playoff game. This year will be the West semifinal, and John Hufnagel's team goes through its final tune-up for the Wendy's Western final 2 weeks from today.
And they'd like to have the best record in the Canadian Football League. They can win this one, they would. The only team with 13 wins, and John Hufnagel has said for some time now that he will go with all his starters, at least for the first half. And we've seen Joffrey Reynolds, we've seen Henry Burris, and all the starting receivers as well.
No catches for Kenyon Rambo or G-Roy Simon yet. 3rd and inches, Sajarius Jackson checks in for the Lions in their short yardage, and he'll plunge ahead and should have the first down behind center Angus Reid and left guard Kelly Bates. Still no signal from Andre Prue or a member of his officiating crew. There it is. It is a first down. Let's check the Lions offense.
Well, he missed 2 starts in a row, but behind Buck Pierce in the starting backfield will be Stephon Logan. His 8th start of the season, already churned out a few yards in this first quarter. The receiving court, G-Roy Simon to start this game, 1 yard behind Kenyon Rambo. The Calgary Stampeders for the lead in the yardage category, and the offensive line, Murphy and Jimenez on the tackles.
First down at the 29, a play fake. Oh, a big hit on Buck Pierce. Intended for G-Roy Simon, incomplete, but Buck Pierce has been beaten up in games against Calgary this year, and that's the first big jolt he's taken in this game.
And his style is like Matt Dunnigan used to play. He will hang on to the ball till the last second to make a play, and because of that, he takes a lot of these hits. And Salim Rashid comes up and puts a pretty good one after he delivers that pass.
10th straight start for Buck Pierce, the 11th overall on the season. And the Lions look at 2nd and 10. And Pierce looks deep for Paris Jackson, and Jackson can't bring it in the end zone. Shannon James there in support, and that was a good battle in the end zone for that football.
Well, Shannon James, the outstanding defensive player nominee for the Calgary Stampeders. I know that was a tough decision for the voters here in Calgary, who had to look at Charleston Hughes' second half. He's not playing tonight, Hughes, but this is the versatility from Shannon James, who can stop the run. He has 66 tackles on the season, but if you have to ask him to do this, he'll go out and cover a receiver like Paris Jackson or G-Roy Simon. He's right there to knock that one away.
So Paul McCallum comes on to attempt a 37-yarder, and McCallum puts it through, and the Lions strike first. Well, football weather doesn't get any better than this. What a day in the foothills. Henry Burris back to work. 1 for 5 to start in this game. Joffrey Reynolds has all the offensive yards so far. And John Cornish, the ball carrier, up to the 40-yard line. And Cornish has 5.
Well, Joffrey Reynolds did start this game, played the first few series. We're seeing John Cornish in this one. But I'm sure that Joffrey Reynolds' day is not quite done yet. But the leading rusher in the Canadian Football League, Joffrey Reynolds. There's the receiving corps. I mentioned Kenyon Rambo started the game 1 yard ahead of G-Roy Simon. We'll keep you up to date on that race. Rob Lazio, the nominee for outstanding lineman in Calgary at center.
And that offensive line's done such a good job this year. The leading rusher, and Burris has been sacked just twice. Here's a catch over the middle, and Nick Lewis into Lion territory to the BC 50, brought down by Corey Banks.
Real simple crossing route from Nick Lewis. He's going to run right in front of Javi Glatt, number 6, and as Lewis comes across the field, Glatt tries to go for the football, and when he does, coming all the way across, he misses the tackle. There they are right at the bottom of your screen. You see, he went for the football, gambled, and missed it. Nick Lewis picks it up and picks up good yardage.
20 yards for Nick Lewis. And a Calgary first down. Lions 50, and now Demetrius Summers in for Cornish at running back, and he goes in motion to the short side. And Henry Burris looks for Summers, who makes the catch and stretches down to the 35. 15 for Demetrius Summers.
As a defense for the BC Lions, Cameron Wake, 20 sacks on the season, but has not had one in the last 2 games. There's the linebacking core. Just mentioned Javi Glatt in the middle, putting together a very good season. Linebacking core, and then the secondary with Baron Miles. 9 interceptions for Miles in the middle, that safety spot.
Our starting lineups brought to you by Holiday Inn Hotels. Look again at Holiday Inn. And just 2-man games lost all season long for the Lions defense. That's remarkable. 1 game missed by Jamal Johnson and 1 for Dante Marsh. First down, back to Cornish off the left side. John Cornish with a good run. 23 carries coming into the game, 7 of them for at least 10 yards or more.
Well, this is a good running football team. The Calgary Stampeders ranked 2nd in the league, rushing for 130 yards per game. Joffrey Reynolds, another 1,000-yard season for him. He's the leader in Canadian football. First time that the Calgary Stampeders have had a leading rusher since Gary Allen in 1986. Long time ago. And what was surprising to me about that was the fact that Kelvin Anderson here in Calgary had 7,000-yard seasons and never led the league in rushing.
John Cornish slow to come out of the huddle, headed to the sidelines, and then took a knee as the training staff come out to attend to him. So we'll take a timeout. Less than 3 minutes to go, first quarter. Welcome back to McMahon Stadium. 2nd and 1 and a quarterback sneak for the first down, and penalty markers are on the play.
And it is against BC.
That'll be against the BC Lions. So the Calgary Stampeders will get the first down and have a little bit of a drive going here.
Offside. BC, 5-yard penalty. First down.
In the 2 wins for Calgary over Wally Bono's crew, the running game has been decisive. 197 yards on the ground in the season opener. That's the most yards given up on the ground by the Lions all year. And in the other meeting in week 8, it was 152 yards of rushing. But Henry Burris going to look to the air this time, into the end zone, incomplete. Looking for Kenyon Rambo for the first time today. Matched up against corner Dante Marsh.
And one of the things you mentioned about that running game for the Calgary Stampeders is that the BC Lions are dominant up front. They have the strongest defensive line in the Canadian Football League. In fact, top 3 in the sacks department in the CFL are BC Lions. So one way to combat that or try to neutralize it is to attack them with the running game. So George Cortez will run the football against the Lions to try and slow down that pass rush.
2nd and 10 from the BC 21. And Burris pumps. a second time, and now releases, and Reynolds has it cut down at the 13-yard line by Jamal Johnson. And he'll be short of the first down.
Yeah, that's a pretty good tackle by Jamal Johnson in the open field, because he was caught between whether or not to come up and stop Henry Burris scrambling with the football. You can see him to the left of your screen. Watch when he gets out in the open field. If you can freeze it, guys, when he gets into that bind. He's right here now. He's in that bind. If he steps up to go to Henry Burris, he dumps it off. If he goes to Joffrey Reynolds, Burris runs with it. He tried to play in between and still had the speed to run down Joffrey Reynolds.
So here's Sandro DeAngelis from 20 yards out with Brett Ralph, the holder. And DeAngelis puts it through, and this game is tied with 98 seconds remaining in the first quarter. Still relatively quiet first quarter with the two teams trading field goals so far.
A shot of Aaron Hunt there talking to Coach Wally Buono. What a game he had last week with 3 sacks.
Second in the league in sacks behind his teammate Cameron Wake, and it will be a 1-2-3 finish for the BC Lions in that department, with Brent Johnson at 10, tied with Karan Williams of the Montreal Alouettes. There's the man who we've been talking about all season long with 20 sacks, although the Calgary Stampeders have done a good job on Cameron Wake, allowing just 1 sack in the first 2 meetings of the year.
Yes, but Cameron Wake can clean off a spot in his trophy case, and he can get ready to put another one right in there on that shelf, because he will be unanimous choice for outstanding defensive player.
I was going to say, I don't know if that award's ever been won with a unanimous vote, but it would be hard not to get the unanimous vote this year. Here's Ian Smart with a good kick return. Brought down at the 37-yard line. Brandon Browner on the tackle.
Well, let's show you the Calgary Stampeders starting lineup. They will put Juwan Simpson into the lineup for Charleston. Hughes will be fine for the Western Final, but is on the 1 game injured for this game. Shannon James, their nominee for outstanding defensive player in that linebacking core. Wes Lysak will rotate with Milton Collins at safety. And Lenny Walls and Brandon Brown are 2 great covermen in that secondary.
It is Collins in right now as the Lions go to work from their 37-yard line. Buck Pierce hands off, and Logan. And Logan, a couple of changes of direction, and he's already ripped off a couple of impressive runs up to the 52 as we join Sarah Orleski.
Chris, these 2 starting quarterbacks are in very different situations. As we've discussed, with nothing on the line for the Stampeders, John Huffnagel just wants Henry Burris to get into a rhythm, and Burris said he wouldn't be surprised if he played possibly up to 3 quarters. Well, the Lions are in a different situation. They need to win today. It's no secret that Buck Pierce has been nursing a nagging ankle injury. He said to me that what he would hope in an ideal world is that the Lions would jump out to an early lead, and perhaps he would have the opportunity to rest it a bit.
Thank you, Sarah. Another run by Stefan Logan, who is establishing himself on the ground so far. How much of Jarius Jackson will we see? Would be a perfect scenario, but I don't think the Calgary Stampeders are going to make this an easy day for the Lions.
And it's an important game. I mean, the BC Lions do not want to go to Mosaic Stadium and play the Saskatchewan Roughriders at home, where they are dominant on defense. So a big game of any year. This is home field advantage, maybe most important in 2008.
First and 10. Steady diet of Stefan Logan so far, who's missed the last 2, and a little more weight on his shoulders without Charles Roberts, who went down last week with the Achilles injury. End of 1 quarter football here, and we're tied at McMahon. First quarter stats are brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
Well, the running backs are getting things going for both offenses. Joffrey Reynolds has some yards, so does Stefan Logan. Right now, Henry Burris 7 yards away from 5,000 on the season. And the other race that we're watching is Geroy Simon and Kenyon Rambo, and they don't have a catch yet.
Well, the ball's been thrown twice in Geroy Simon's direction deep, but without a catch, and you saw the incompletion in the end zone intended for Rambo. It's going to be interesting to see those two and who becomes the receiving champion, 1 yard separating the two.
Yeah, and with Joffrey Reynolds as the leading rusher for the Canadian Football League and the Calgary Stampeders, if Kenyon Rambo can do it, it'd be the first time for Calgary in their history that they had the leading receiver and leading rusher.
Of course, nothing new about G. Roy Simon leading the Canadian Football League in receiving. Buck Pierce trying to get this passing offense going, 2nd and 5, but he'll stay on the ground, and Stefan Logan should be close to the first down.
Well, important to get Stefan Logan going and comfortable again. He had the rib injury, and Charles Roberts started the last 2 games. Roberts blew out his Achilles tendon last week, so he is gone for the season. Stefan Logan has been healthy, but he hasn't had those reps, so this is an important game for him as well. Heading into the West semifinal, touch the football, get back familiar with the offense, and he's off to a pretty good start here.
1 game against Calgary earlier this season, 11 carries, 95 yards. He's been the Lions' offense so far this afternoon. 1st and 10. Now Ian Smart in the backfield as they go to the 2 backs, and Smart to the 35. Short yardage this time, but as Wally Bono said, Ian Smart reestablished himself last week when Charles Roberts went down.
Yeah, just shy of 100 yards rushing when Roberts went down. He has over 2,500 all-purpose yards. Lions record for kickoff return yardage, and the nominee for outstanding special teams player for the BC Lions. You can put him and Stefan Logan back in returns too, and 7 carries, 69 yards. Nice average for Stefan Logan here this afternoon.
Brett Anderson has brought a play in on 2nd and 8. And Pierce to throw. Now steps up and he'll take off. And Buck Pierce down inside the 30 to the 29, but he'll be a little short of the first down.
And I'm sure that Wally Buono has told Buck Pierce that we know how tough you are. We know that you'd like to run. We know you don't like to hook slide, but you have to in this game this afternoon. He cannot take too many hits in this game. We've already seen him take 1. He's got that tender ankle we talked about and Sarah mentioned on the sideline. It took them about half the season to figure out the rotation at quarterback, but there's no question that Buck Pierce established himself over this last 8 games as the starter, and Jarius Jackson coming off the bench in relief.
3rd and 2. Wally Buono sends out Paul McCallum, who went perfect in October, 7 for 7. And now looking for his 2nd of the afternoon. And McCallum misses to the right. And Marcus Howell scoops it up in the end zone. And will give up the single point. 4-3 BC on a rare miss by McCallum. Thank you, David. Back at McMahon. Calgary to scrimmage at their own 35-yard line. Henry Burris needs 6 yards for 5,000 on the season. Kurt Ralph is just about 6 yards away. Well, they get a good spot, 7-yard gain. So Henry's over 5,000 for the first time in his CFL career.
A nominee for outstanding player this year, and since Labor Day, Henry Burris has thrown 23 touchdown passes to just 5 interceptions. It's been his best season as a pro in the Canadian Football League. And I think he has a chance at outstanding player.
Certainly does. Doug Flutie hit 5,000 3 times, and now Burris does it and looks for more on that throw behind. And it is complete. Demetrius Summers with the catch.
You know, this is a tough play to run and execute for a trained veteran wide receiver, let alone a running back who gets limited reps throughout the season in Demetrius Summers. But for him to be able to run that throw behind and make that type of catch right along the rail, that's a big play. Henry Burris puts it where he has to so that Otis Floyd doesn't have a chance at it, but that's some catch for Demetrius Summers.
We should see a lot of Summers today. Not expecting a full game out of Joffrey Reynolds. And Summers shows you he catch the ball too. A 25-yard gain and a first down. Now John Cornish back in, and Cornish kicks it outside and then is taken down by Corey Banks. at the 40-yard line. Gain of 3. But still, no catches for Kenyon Rambo or G-Roy Simon as they duel for top receiver honors.
Yeah, there's the tally board, and we will keep you up to date. They've thrown a couple G-Roy's way, as you mentioned, Chris. A couple of deep balls, actually. Buck Pierce trying to hook up with G-Roy Simon. The first series, they threw a deep one that just missed. And Kenyon Rambo's had a couple his direction as well. One in the end zone that didn't get there.
I wondered if either had an advantage with the stakes being different for the two teams. So far, no advantage seen. They catch over the middle.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you think from the Calgary Stampeders' point of view, with this game not having any effect on the standings, they will host the Western Final. Would Henry Burris just lock into Kenyon Rambo, just try and get him the football a bunch so that he can get the record? But there's a huge downside to doing that. You have to continue with your progressions, read the defense like you normally would.
Nick Lewis with a catch, and now Kenyon Rambo has his first catch of the game down to the 22-yard line. So Rambo adds 9 to his total.
Pretty simple slant route. Again, if Henry Burris locks into Kenyon Rambo, he's going to go to him here because he's the primary target. Nice throw and catch. But if he starts locking in, then he'll get some bad habits. You don't want bad habits going into the playoffs.
98th catch of the year in the breakout season for Kenyon Rambo. And with that catch, over 1,400 yards. And that close to a first down.
He's had his 100-yard games early in the season. The last 5 games, he's averaged around 60 yards a game.
Hasn't had a 100-yard game since September 12th, and G-Roy Simons turned it up. Remember last year, over 200 yards in the final regular season game to take the receiving crown away from Terrence Edwards. So 2nd and inches, and out of shotgun, Burris hands it off, or fakes, and then the option toss. John Cornish inside the 5, touchdown. Like that call, 22-yard touchdown run for John Cornish, his first of the year.
All starts with great play action to Joffrey Reynolds right here. Joffrey Reynolds is going to do the play fake up into the middle with Henry Burris. He will ride in that stomach. Now Cornish has come from the left side of the formation, and then he comes out as the pitch man this way, and it becomes option with quarterback, running back going back to the left. Tremendous misdirection there from the Calgary Stampeders, and that is a new play, one we haven't seen all season long from Calgary, so they're adding to their playbook.
First CFL touchdown for Cornish. And DeAngelis adds the extra point. And the Stampeders lead it by 6.
John Huffnagel and George Cortez adding to the offensive playbook in Week 18. This is another offensive series, offensive play that whoever faces Calgary in the West Final will have to game plan for.
Ian Smart back at his 5. Came into the game 50 kickoff yards short of the CFL record set by Eric Blunt. Back in 1998.
Let's go back to this run. There's John Cornish right there, who's coming from the left side. He actually lines up as a slot back, and watch what this becomes. It's the fake to Reynolds. Now Cornish and Burris come out. Otis Floyd has to make a choice. If Otis Floyd steps here, he's in trouble because the quarterback will run. If he steps into the quarterback Burris, he goes ahead and pitches it because Burris now has one guy to option, and that is Otis Floyd. And Otis Floyd can't be right in that scenario.
Nice way to score your first CFL touchdown. John Cornish 4 runs for 39 yards so far today. And now Buck Pierce has Paris Jackson over the middle at the 32-yard line. And a reminder to tune into TSN next Saturday. The road to the Grey Cup begins with the divisional semifinals. We have the Wendy's Eastern semifinal as the Eskimos will visit the Blue Bombers next Saturday. Our coverage begins at noon Eastern.
All of a sudden, that Winnipeg-Edmonton semifinal becomes a very interesting football game.
Both teams tuned up with pretty good performances. Stefan Logan on second down, and Logan's run well so far, up to the 39, and a fresh set of downs for BC.
You know, the way the Calgary Stampeders have played defense, and this is a defense that ranks #1 in the Canadian Football League against the run. For Stefan Logan to be having this kind of success is also maybe the Lions trying to make a statement that they can run the football against this Calgary defense. Just 85.9 yards per game over the 18-game season that the Stamps on defense have given up along the ground.
Lions offense came into this game red hot with 98 points in their last 2 games, finding the going a little tougher against this revamped Calgary defense. Here's Ian Smart out of the backfield, and Smart with a catch and a first down. Tracked down by Shannon James, but 13 more for the Lions.
Stefan Logan got off to a good start in the first quarter. They used him to bounce outside and use his speed to try and get to the perimeter of the defense to start things out. And as this game has progressed, then they've gone back and started to run him a little bit between the tackles. So they spread the defense out by bouncing him out wide in the first quarter. In the second quarter, bring him back inside.
For a back that hits the hole with higher speed than him in the league, it is impressive to watch, and Logan goes to work again. This time there wasn't a hole, and tried to scamper outside and strung out for a loss.
Well, that's what you really have to do against a guy like Stefan Logan, is you have to gang tackle him. You have to try and get his shoulder pads headed towards the sideline rather than down the field. Shannon James gets outside, so he can't outrun that angle, and Logan runs out of room.
And that time a loss of 1. Shannon James active again today. As Glenn mentioned, the defensive player of the year in Calgary for the 2nd consecutive season. 2nd and 11. Buck Pierce rolling, and now for Logan over his head. And that was well defended by the Stampeders, and it goes incomplete.
Well, where Buck Pierce got in trouble there is first of all, he bought himself a couple of seconds with his cadence, because the Calgary Stampeders sent a blitzer off the edge. And they may have been offside on this.
Flag down at the line of scrimmage, and
Offside. Calgary number 29, 5-yard penalty.
Yeah.
Still 2nd down.
That was the blitzer. Yeah, that was the blitzer, the linebacker, Dwayne Carpenter. And it was the snap cadence by Buck Pierce that caused him problems. See, he wants to go there on time, and then he has to put the brakes on and try and get back. He didn't get out of that neutral zone.
so 2nd down over, 2nd and 6 now. The ball just nudging across midfield. And Pierce with time has a completion. And O'Neal Wilson has a BC first down at the Calgary 38-yard line.
You know, the style of defense that Calgary plays, receivers against the Stamps in the secondary are going to have to make plays, and they're going to have to make those plays when they are contested. They're going to have to fight through coverage because of the way the Stampeders play. They like to play man-to-man defense. They'll always be a guy right on you, and you're going to have to fight through that if you're a receiver against this secondary.
17 for O'Neal Wilson. Bunch formation wide side, the toss that way, and Logan with speed again across the 25 and down at the 18-yard line. He is lightning.
And that's why it was so amazing to me, Chris, that the Calgary Stampeders led the league defensively against the run. Chris Jones has the best run defense in the CFL this year, and they play that aggressive style in the secondary. So the secondary really cannot help very often in the run because they're down the field in bump and run with their receivers. So they have their back to the running back. You have to think that they'd be susceptible to the run. They're showing a little of that this afternoon, but they have been the #1 team.
19 for Logan, and he's already ripped up 94 on this stingy run defense. Pierce has time. Open man, end zone. Touchdown, Paris Jackson. Jackson has his 8th touchdown of the year. And the Lions a convert away from regaining the lead.
And Paris Jackson starts way back in the backfield here, and this is that waggle to the line of scrimmage that's going to help him out. Little hop to the line, and then he busts to the outside and runs a double move. He goes to the sideline and then down the field. We've seen that Shannon James matchup. James got him in the first quarter, and now Paris gets him in the second, so it's 1-1 in that one-on-one matchup.
Career season for Paris Jackson gets a little better. The extra point is added. 5 minutes left here in the second quarter. Lions lead.
Boy, this time of year, there's usually snow on the banks of the Bow River.
Do some fishing on the banks today.
Beautiful day.
Fishing season, but it is gorgeous here in the foothills today. Turn up short of the 35-yard line. 7-play drive, 85 yards.
Little rub here for Ryan Grice-Mullen and Paris Jackson. There's Paris Jackson. Watch Grice-Mullen at the top. He's working on Brandon Browner. Go ahead and run it, guys. Here's what's going to happen. He comes down low, and now you get the rub there. And that's the rub that causes Shannon James to have to bubble over top of that pick. And then he has to fight his way back to Paris Jackson. Now he's in a trail position. He can't get there. Perfect throw from Buck Pierce.
Back to work goes Henry Burris, with all of Saskatchewan cheering for him today. Incomplete intended for Brett Ralph.
Well, and the question will be, there's 4:34 left in this first half. Will we see Henry Burris in the second half? You know, John Hufnagel talked about it. He's going to play his starters. He wanted them to prepare as if it was any other game so that they stayed mentally sharp. And, you know, when you think about John Hufnagel's past, he used to work with Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, when he was working on that perfect season with the New England Patriots, played Tom Brady even though they had the playoffs wrapped up.
Went with the starters all the way, and Burris now 2nd and 10, steps up and takes off. Great move, and then the lunge for the first down. And he got through that untouched.
You know, and I know that John Hufnagel, watching Henry Burris here, having learned from Bill Belichick, and I'm sure he carries some of that over, that he wants his starters to stay sharp. I know that the Patriots were looking at NFL history if they could complete that perfect season, but I know he wants and likes that great move in the open field by Henry Burris, but it was the slide and the get down early that I'm sure John Hufnagel's most happy about.
And part of his outstanding player resume, Henry Burris 8th in the league in rushing, just under 600 yards on the season. And here's Summers. Nice run here by Demetrius Summers. Joffrey Reynolds understudy.
Well, you mentioned the rushing yards for Henry Burris. You know, he is not known anymore as a running quarterback, and yet all the running quarterbacks in the league, Henry Burris ranks #1 rushing the football. That's an element to his game that can really break down a defense in a hurry. Kerry Joseph for Toronto this weekend added big time to his. Jarius Jackson is on that list for the BC Lions, and had he played every rep, he'd have a lot more numbers. But
and Henry plunges ahead for first down, so they have the leading rusher in Reynolds, potentially the leading receiver in Kenyon Rambo, and the leading rushing quarterback in Henry Burris. The 3-minute warning here at McMahon. Well, we're trying to decide where the Wendy's Western semifinal will be. At Mosaic or BC Place Stadium, Rough Riders and Lions, and we'll have it for you at 4 Eastern next week. Stampeders with the football, under 3 minutes to go. First down in BC territory. Pressure on Burris, looking for Rambo, and he can't bring it in. Adjusted to the football, but couldn't finish the play.
Full blitz from the BC Lions, so that means this is one-on-one for Kenyon Rambo. This time he'll be against Ryan Phillips, who hangs in there. He has to fight to get back into position, because you could see Rambo had separated by 3 or 4 yards, but Ryan Phillips made up that distance with the ball in the air. Only 1 interception for Ryan Phillips this year, but he has the 8 knockdowns, so he's getting to the football.
Surprising, though, after 12 last year to lead the CFL. Rambo with 5 100-yard games, 2 against the Lions, who show blitz here. Baron Miles on the blitz, and a look in for Ryan Thurwell, who's got it. a first down at the BC 35 as the former Lion comes up with a big second down conversion.
Yeah, that's his back-to-back plays, Chris, that the Lions have sent the house. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 coming blitzing on the play for the BC Lions, including safety Baron Miles, number 9, who was picked up right in the middle here by the receiver Jermaine Copeland. So that's picked up the blitz. That gives Henry Burris an extra second to hit his receiver and target Thelwell over the middle.
16 for Ryan Thelwell. First down, Calgary. And Burris looking for Rambo again. He's got it. Kenyon Rambo with his second catch. And another first down to the 11-yard line. 22 for Kenyon Rambo. And it sounds like the cheers are a little louder when he catches the football.
Yeah, everybody knows about the race, and I guarantee you that includes the quarterback for the Calgary Stampeders, Henry Burris. That's a pretty nice route running where he gets Dante Marsh to turn his hips and shoulders and make a speed turn on an out. That's one of the best route runners in the game right there.
Stampeder hasn't led since Alan Pitts in '99. First down, Stamps. Burris the play fake and the throw to the goal line. Touchdown, Nick Lewis.
First of all, wondering if that was a catch by Nick Lewis. The ball came out and hit the turf. If he catches it, has possession and crossed the plane, then the touchdown would be called. Looks like he has possession. Yeah, and that doesn't come out until after he gets to the ground. Baron Miles put the hit on him.
Well, the man who's going to be honored at halftime for a few receiving records this year has just caught his 10th touchdown pass of the season.
Well, 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons for Nick Lewis, and not even the great Alan Pitts for the Calgary Stampeders accomplished that when you talk about consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Pitts had more, but not consecutive.
Well, Rambo leads this team in receiving, but Nick Lewis has made probably more tough catches or hard-earned catches this year with his physical game, and he's rewarded with his 10th touchdown grab.
A lot of the Alan Pitts records and numbers starting to fall. The Calgary Stampeders.
And you can see the ball came out after he crossed the plane. Great year for Nick Lewis. Well, over 1,100 yards.
That's a good series for Calgary because Henry Burris got the blocking up front. He gets the blocking up front and doesn't get hit when the Lions send full blitz. If you send full blitz, you know one thing. Your secondary behind that blitz is playing straight man-to-man, and this is one of the top receiving corps in the CFL.
Henry Burris with his 39th touchdown pass of the year. 24 in the last 8.5 games. And here's Ian Smart. Looking for a crease. And up to the 30-yard line. Taken down by Shannon James. And Alan Pitts left his mark.
Oh, he certainly did. Alan Pitts, 9,000-yard seasons. Never had 5 consecutive, and that's what Nick Lewis has. He also has at least 1 catch in 88 consecutive games. Alan Pitts had that record for the Calgary Stampeders at 85. And as you mentioned, Chris, Kenyon Rambo, the first receiver to lead, if he does at the end of this game, since Alan Pitts in '99.
Pitts led the league 4 times. Buck Pierce to work with just over a minute and a half to go, and a catch over the middle. And O'Neal Wilson has his second grab. By the way, Jason Claremont, we are expecting to see next week as he is recuperating from a knee injury.
Which is why you're seeing a little more O'Neal Wilson, and they've moved Paris Jackson inside to play where Claremont usually plays. Paris Jackson normally will line up as a wide receiver, but since the injury to Claremont, he's moved into his spot.
Made a good transition inside, but they want Claremont back 2nd and 2. Buck Pierce short drop, but looks for a little more. And there's G-Roy Simon with the catch up at midfield to get a little closer to Kenyon Rambo.
Yeah, and that's a beauty too, because you know, he makes it look routine. He's running on Lenny Walls there and runs the out. Walls is right in the throwing lane underneath him. He dives and keeps his feet in bounds.
Just almost looked like Simon was floating there. What a great grab it was for 19. And BC's got a first down at midfield. Pierce to the air again, looking deep for Coleman, and just out of his reach.
It's one thing the Lions have done in this game this afternoon is tried to push the ball deep. They haven't been able to hook up on it, but they started the game with 2 long throws, one to Clarence Coleman, one to G-Roy Simon. They're trying to keep the defense off them. You will see more of that against the Calgary defense because of the secondary playing bump and run up on 1 yard off the line of scrimmage.
Stampeders #1 in points allowed, yards allowed, rushing, but they are 5th against the pass. 2nd and 10. Good protection. And that ball on the sidelines intended for Ryan Grace Mullen falls incomplete.
Right now the Lions, when they face the blitz from the Calgary Stampeders from the secondary, they've gone to the short side of the field. The upside for Buck Pierce on that is that it's the easier throw. It's closer. You have a receiver that's closer to you. The downside is you only have one. If he's covered, which Buck Pierce's receiver was covered there, you're in big trouble.
Stamps late getting a guy onto the field as Miguel Robide was slow out there, and that ball bouncing inside the 10, scooped up by Howell, and he'll bring it back to the 16-yard line where Jamal Johnson helps bring him down. And we're just under a minute away from Rona at the half. Game 72, and these guys have been at it for all 72 of them, so tip of the cap to them. But I know they feel like us. It beats working for a living, doesn't it?
Yeah, and how pumped up is the entire crew as we head into the playoff run and the Grey Cup Championship in Montreal.
Well, Jock Climbing and I are not pumped up, and I'll mention it. I'll fess up.
Yeah.
The #2 ranked Queens Golden Gales beaten today in Ottawa.
Breaks my heart. That's too bad.
I knew you'd be very upset about that. So if Jock's a little melancholy, it's not because it's game 72.
No. SFU and U of S. I haven't had an update on that one. I know they go.
Who are you cheering for, by the way?
Yeah, that's I'm squarely on the fence there.
53 seconds remaining. And 2nd and 7 upcoming. And an interesting play selection here, because the Lions, with a stop, will get the ball back in decent field position with time to put points on the board.
And I think the entire province of British Columbia, too, watching this game are thinking, is that guy going to play in the second half? Because this has been a very competitive game, as you can see, with the Calgary Stampeders with a 6-point lead with their #1s out there. But how long does John Hufnagel keep their #1s out there?
2nd and 7 play call, and they get to Henry Burris for the first time today. And
21.
Cameron Wake has number 21, but there is a marker on the field. What a year for Cameron Wake. And it looks like it's going against Calgary. First sack for Wake in 3 weeks.
Holding. Calgary #50. That penalty's declined. 3rd down.
Yeah, right when we were starting to talk about Cameron Wake, it looked like he was going to catch the all-time record and get there and become the all-time leader in sacks. He kind of went through a bit of a dry spell, a 2-week dry spell without one. Now he probably during those 2 games drew 5-6 holding calls and has forced offenses to double team him all game long. But he did go through that dry spell, and he's back now with another one.
And it was not that dry because he had a touchdown in one of those games and a blocked field goal in the other. Nearly a blocked punt there as they put pressure on Dales, but a beauty of a kick back to the 42-yard line, and great downfield cover as well. So just when you thought it was going to be outstanding field position for the Lions, LaMarcus Rowell with the downfield cover of a terrific Burkdale punt. 56 yards.
21 sacks now in the season. That's first. You mentioned forced fumbles. He could have added to his sack total had the quarterback hung on to the football on those hits.
Yeah.
You know, you tackles, that leads all linemen. He's or second, I should say, with all against all defensive linemen. And you mentioned that blocked field goal. That won the season series for BC against the Edmonton Eskimos.
Just 22 seconds for Pierce to work with. Trying to hook up, and a great play by Logan at the over-the-shoulder catch has BC in field goal range down at the Calgary 35.
We've seen a couple of those now in this game this afternoon. One by Demetrius Summers for the Calgary Stampeders now, and one for Stefan Logan. So the running backs out of the backfield are now becoming pretty good receivers out in the open field, because that's a tough receiver for, or a tough catch for a starting receiver.
That's the 47th catch of the year for Logan, so he is a force coming out of the backfield as well. 14 seconds remaining. Logan with 114 yards in the game, and Buck Pierce pulling it down, and then gets tripped up. Brandon Browner off the corner, makes the defensive play.
Well, second down, and it looked like Buck Pierce got back to the line of scrimmage, or maybe just a yard short of it. He wanted to go to G. Simon deep here, but Milton Collins, the safety, rolled over to that side and gave the Calgary Stampeders secondary some help. So they double-teamed G. That's why Buck Pierce had to run. They're gonna.
So 8 seconds remaining. And Buck looks to the sidelines. Well, McCallum
wasn't out there.
And that's a pretty good sprint by McCallum to get into position.
Well, I was gonna
maybe they go with one more play.
Yeah, I was gonna mention it was second down, so McCallum thought we'll wait till third down and try one more play. But going on second down, if you box the snap here, you could go again on third down and try another field goal.
That's from 43 yards out. And McCallum puts it up, but he has missed 2.5. And Marcus Howell's going to run it out. And that's the final play of the opening half. 17-11, Stamps lead it. Orleski with Wally Bono.
Coach, you enter the third quarter down by 6 points. This is the two most important quarters of your season so far. What type of message did you send to the team at the half?
Well, we got to play a lot better than we did in the first half, and I think we got to play with a little more intensity. I mean, the game is close. We missed 2 field goals, but, you know, right now I would prefer the guys play with a little more intensity.
121 passing yards for Buck Pierce. Are you happy with the job that he's been doing?
Well, you know what? Right now he's missed on a few throws, but you know what? He's got good reads, and we're moving the football. We've kicked the 2 field goals. It's a tie game.
Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
So the visiting coach not happy with the first half in its entirety.
Thing about it is,
we know we'll be playing, excuse me, Glenn, the third quarter. Still wondering about the status of Henry Burris, as John Huffnagle not showing his cards yet.
Not yet, not yet. The quarterbacks were warming up on the sideline. You know, Barrick Neely has his helmet on. Henry Burris does not have his helmet on, and it looks like he might be coming into play as he talks to Rob Lazio. That's the center, so he wants to be communicating with him coming in. It looks like we may see Barrick Neely taking a couple of snaps from Rob Lazio to make sure.
Yep. So it looks like the regular season may be over for Henry Burris.
What a regular season it was.
And don't you wish he was in if you're in Saskatchewan right now?
But a good decision by John Huffnagle. I like his approach. He wanted to keep him mentally sharp and prepare for this game as if it was any other, and they did that. Played a good first half, had the lead, and now he won't have his #1 quarterback injured.
By the way, there was a roughing call on Dean Valley on the final play of the first half, and that's why the kickoff was from the 50-yard line. And the Lions bring it back out to the 29, where Buck Pierce goes to work. And we'll show you what happened on the final play. And a flag as the gun sounded as Marcus Howell brought out the missed field goal, and there was a late shot by Dean Valley there that resulted in the flag that had the yardage assessed on the opening kickoff of the second half.
Dean Valley's had a chance to play a little bit this year. He's in his second year with the Lions, but Shirko Haji-Razuli has gone down at times, and he's gone in and replaced him.
Lions start 2 back in this third quarter. Logan, second man, off the right side, has run hard today. And Stefan Logan with 100 yards plus on the day.
And it looks like those ribs are fine for Stefan Logan. He's the second back. Lyle Green is the lead fullback, and he comes and blocks the backside of the play so Stefan Logan can go one-on-one in the open field on Salim Rashid.
Well, it is a 100-yard game, 102 on 11 carries so far. So you got to like that average of just over 9 a carry. 853 on the season in not full-time duty. And the rookie outside again. And Stefan Logan forced out at the 48, and then a late shot by Juwan Armour on Clarence Coleman. And that will get a reaction from John Huffnagel, who sat Armour down last week. And that picture's worth 1,000 words, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And Juwan Armour apologized to his teammates, was in a scuffle in a establishment here in Calgary prior to the Hamilton game, did not make that trip, apologized to his teammates, and is back in the lineup as starting linebacker tonight. But yeah, you could see John Huffnagel trying to rein him in.
Had words with Dwight Anderson as well.
Major foul. Unnecessary roughness. Calgary number 2, 15-yard penalty. First down.
And so Armour will stand on the sidelines. We'll find out for how long. Let's take a look at what happened.
Clarence Coleman was there. He came back at the end of that play and gave Juwan Armour a pretty good hit. They get the retaliation every time because that was after the play.
So the end result, a BC first down at the Calgary 47. And Pierce, Bryce Mullen, the Hawaii product, has another first down, jolted out by Dwight Anderson.
Well, you can see Buck Pierce is going to his reads, and just whichever is the primary target. Doesn't have to be G-Roy Simon, even though he's in this race with Kenyon Rambo. That's how close the race is. The one thing about the BC Lions against this Calgary secondary, they're going to have to take their shots deep.
So first and 10 at the 36. Logan again, and this time not much straight ahead as he plunges for 2.
Calgary Stampeders there brought down their safety Wes Lysak, so they basically, on first down, they ran a blitz that is designed to stop the run. They're bringing a blitz that's designed to fill all the gaps, and you bring the safety down to get him on the line of scrimmage, and he's right over here just to the left of your screen. That's not him, just beside him to the left. He's just outside of your picture there. You'll see him now. There he is, 31. So they try and cancel all the gaps up front and try and make it tough on Stefan Logan.
Juwan Armour back in the game, 2nd and 9. Here's short drop, and Simon with a drop. And he knows that's what he should have had.
Yeah, that is. And you know what? He was right at the first down marker, too. The ball was on the money. It was on the place it had to be. Again, that bump and run, it's going to be contested catches all the time. And that one, G-Roy Simon catches 9 out of 10 times.
So third down, Paul McCallum back in. You heard Wally Buono talk about the 2 missed field goals first half. And McCallum will try to get BC within a field goal as he attempts a 42-yarder. Yeah, this This time McCallum puts it through, and it's 17-14. Approaching 3 minutes of the third quarter in Calgary. And in 2009, we'll be here at McMahon Stadium. Can we order a day like today?
How about for the West Final this year in a couple weeks? Another day like today.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
Will we be playing outdoors next week at Mosaic or indoors at BC Place Stadium? John Cornish takes the handoff from Barrick Neely and is brought down behind the line of scrimmage by Jerome Dennis.
Yeah, that'll be it for Henry Burris, and we'll see Barrick Neely, who has been elevated to number 2 in the depth chart for the Calgary Stampeders over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Limited playing action in 2007. He never got his first reps in a live game in 2007 until late in September. It was against the BC Lions. And that game completed around 60% of his passes.
2nd and 12. Neely stands in and fires complete to Brett Ralph. Short of the first down at the 42. Ralph has 9. And the punt team will come on for Calgary.
One thing the Lions have to guard against here, Chris, is that, you know, you heard Wally Buono say to Sarah at halftime that he was worried about their intensity and they needed to turn up the intensity dial a little bit. And what they have to guard against is seeing Barrick Neely in the game and relaxing on defense, because Barrick Neely has a strong arm and he can run as well.
That must irk the coach, though, that his team hadn't dialed up intensity when they need to win to play at home in the playoffs.
Well, and they're struggling against this team this year.
Stampeders trying for the sweep. Prior to the first win this season, they had won only one of their last 10 meetings against the Lions, but the power shift in effect, and there's a lack of intensity. Ian Smart gives it up, and Calgary's got the football. Wes Lysak up with it. And Ian Smart not in the zone.
This is just a complete lack of focus and concentration on the part of Ian Smart, who did not play it very smart. He could have waited. The Calgary Stampeders had to give him 5 yards. Turns the ball over to Wes Lysak.
Stamps have it on the BC 33, and Neely heaving it for the end zone, and there'll be pass interference as it's picked off by Ryan Phillips. But Kenyon Rambo was knocked down in the end zone before the ball arrived.
Baron Miles came across from the middle and put his shoulder right between the 8 and the 5 on Kenyon Rambo. Ryan Phillips intercepts the overthrow. Miles just collided with the receiver. You get a good look at it here. You can see Phillips gets turned. Now he's on the high side, that top shoulder, and there's the contact. Down goes Rambo. It didn't look like
Pass interference. BC number 9. The foul occurred in goal. The ball will be placed on the 1-yard line. First down.
it didn't look like it was intentional by Baron Miles, but it doesn't matter. Knocked him down before the ball arrived, and that's pass interference. Ball's on the 1-yard line.
So Rough Rider hopes escalate here in the third quarter. First, the Ian Smart fumble, and now that big penalty. 32-yard penalty, first and goal from the 1 with corners in the backfield, and Neely trying to plunge. Does he break the plane? Yes, touchdown.
Well. And is Neely okay? Eric Neely had to fight to get that yard. It took a while for the refs to give the touchdown signal, and he took a while getting up off the turf.
So the Baron Miles pass interference call sets it up, and Barrick Neely does break the plane. And with DeAngelis delivering a point after, it'll be a 10-point Calgary lead. Miles has blocked a convert this year, but not there as DeAngelis puts it through. 24-14 Calgary. 10-point Calgary lead. Let's join Sarah Orleski.
Chris, depending how the rest of this game goes, for the first time in Stampeders history, they could finish the season with the league's leading rusher and receiver in Joffrey Reynolds and Kenyon Rambo. Well, it may sound like a very rare occurrence. In fact, the BC Lions did it last year with Geroy Simon and Joe Smith. What doesn't happen often, though, is a receiver finishing 3 consecutive seasons as the league's leading receiver. And if Geroy Simon does that today, that's exactly what he will have accomplished. The last player to do that was Tommy Joe Coffey in 1962 through 1964.
Long time ago.
Yeah, that is amazing how long ago that has been when you consider some of the great receivers in Canadian football, and the one we've talked about and showed you, Alan Pitts here in Calgary and all the great years he had, but never did it 3 years in a row. And Geroy Simon has to catch Kenyon Rambo here.
But I think even Geroy will tell you right now, and he would have said it before the game, but with a 10-point deficit, even more underscored that job one is to win this game, and they're in a hole here as we approach 6 minutes of the third quarter. With a home playoff date in the balance, but Simon is a pretty good way to cut into the Calgary lead. He has a catch here. Brandon Browner brought him down quickly in a short gain of about 4 for Geroy Simon. There's Barrick Neely after his first CFL touchdown.
You know, I mentioned that first game, his first game action last year against the Lions in late September, and he was attempted 15 passes in that game, but you know, he rushed for 50 yards in that game. He can run the football.
2nd and 6 for Buck Pierce. 4 receivers short side of the field. Pierce with time, guns that, complete, first down, and Clarence Coleman has the catch.
Looks like the BC Lion receivers and Clarence Coleman and the rest of the bunch are just starting to resign themselves to the fact that if they're going to make these catches, they're going to have to make them in traffic, or they're going to have to make them with someone hanging on them. That time it's Lenny Walls, who has been matched up against Geroy Simon for the most part until they start moving Simon around.
1st and 10 at the British Columbia 48. Logan stretched out here, and he's going to be dropped for a loss. Brandon Smith back inside the 40-yard line.
You know, it's such a fine line, the mental focus and intensity that Wally Guano talked about. Ian Smart loses it for just a split second and loses his focus. This is one guy that's shown intensity. Stephen Logan has run the ball. He's been the one bright light for the Lions intensity-wise, but that was just one loss of focus for a split second again as he kept bubbling, thinking, I can finally get outside. He doesn't. If he takes positive yards, limits the loss and doesn't put his offense in a hole.
Juwan Simpson getting attention on the field, the defensive end, so we'll step out and be right back. For every sack in today's game, Purolator donates the quarterback's weight in food to a local food bank. Purolator, where business is going. The Lions are going to win the sack derby this year, and Cam Wake, a big reason for it, has another sack in this game.
In the second half of the season, the last 8 games of the season, the BC Lions have registered 41 sacks, including Cam Wake's tonight. 41 sacks would almost put them in top of that race in half the season. That's how good he's been.
Remarkable. Hard to believe the mid-80s Calgary Stampeders, which was not one of their vintage clubs, has the all-time sack record of 85 quarterback sacks in 1986. And speaking of sacks, the front four being impacted here as Juwan Simpson makes his way to the sidelines. LaMarcus Rowell comes in. They've lost Charleston Hughes, was unable to play today, a rib injury, should be back for the Wendy's West final in 2 weeks. And now Simpson, his replacement, goes to the sidelines. 2nd and 15. Here comes the blitz. Buck Pierce gets it away. And Grace Bowl breaks a tackle down the sidelines. And what an explosive run for the touchdown. His first in the CFL. One broken tackle and then some kind of acceleration.
Did he ever put it in another gear? This is a speed from Ryan Grice-Mullen that we have not seen in his limited playing action. He gets to the outside. First of all, Milton Collins doesn't wrap up. He tries to just push him out of bounds. And look at the acceleration. Lenny Walls has good speed. He ran right past him. And with a little flare, hits Pater.
67 yards. So 3 touchdowns in the game. First timers. John Cornish, Derek Neely, and now Ryan Grice-Mullen, who lit it up in the NCAA last year. McCallum the extra point, and it's a 3-point game. Edmonton, Winnipeg, the Wendy's East semifinal from Canadiens next week. And our coverage begins at 12 noon Eastern. Up early, 9 a.m. Pacific. Should be a good crossover Eastern semifinal. I'll tell you what, amazed by the speed of Stefan Logan, and Ryan Grice-Mullen just showed you an extra gear you don't often see either.
Well, and Stefan Logan has that great change of direction speed, the quickness. But Grice-Mullen just showed you some acceleration. He ran away from the Calgary Stampeders secondary.
Demetrius Summers lets that one sail over his head, and it will bounce through the end zone and come out to the 25, no points.
Grice-Mullen is going to take advantage of Geroy Simon and the attention that he will get, because Geroy Simon is the deep receiver here on the inside, and it's a zone defense for Calgary. Milton Collins is going to come out to that zone when he sees the ball in the air. He's right here. But what does he do? What's the fundamental mistake for Collins, number 14? No wrap up. Didn't use his arms. He just pushed him, and then that speed down the sideline.
So 3-point game.
Breakaway speed.
Check that 2-point game. Demetrius Summers.
Show that again, Chris. Let's
I just want to, they put us on the scoreboard 22, but it shouldn't be a single. No points on that kickoff, so it is a 3-point game, 24-21.
But look at the speed here. First of all, nice shake and bake in the open field on Brandon Brown, and then running away from everybody. And our camera's trying to catch up there. But I don't like our chances.
No, we're in the trail position.
Yes.
Second and 6. Neely couldn't find anybody, and he'll get dropped. And I don't know if he dropped the football or not, but he got back on it if he did. Second sack of the game for the BC Lions.
And it was Cameron Wake, I believe, and that would be 22 for Cameron Wake, because he was there first, and he was up celebrating while they were trying to sort out whether or not he got that football back. But here comes off the edge. He finally gets a one-on-one. Demetrius Summers trying to help out, but it was Wake that got him down.
And no doubt that ball came loose, and Neely got back on it. So a forced fumble by Wake, a sack, and number 22 in an extraordinary year. So he's finishing strong.
Well, you consider that he, against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, his best game, 4 sacks. When you talk about the sacks, he has a few games with 3. His playoff game, West Final last year, 5 in 1 game.
Ian Smart across the 50 and grabbed there and hauled down by Justin Phillips. And Cameron Wake is mic'd for TSN this afternoon.
Here we go.
They faked the crack and dove me on the first play.
That was the first of 2 sacks on the game. First and 10. Buck Pierce intercepted the Marcus Rowe. No helmet, but he's got the football. And Buck Pierce cuts him down at the 15. The man who came in to replace Jawan Simpson has an interception and a 34-yard return and a costly BC turnover.
He comes in, as you mentioned, for Juwan Simpson, and is in a stand-up rush position on the outside on Jason Jimenez. Looks like he just puts his right hand up in the air, knocks this down right into his lap. And then he loses his helmet as he takes off. The chin strap pops off. Didn't matter to him.
Forget the helmet, I got the football. So this Calgary defense has come up with another big play.
You gotta love that that old-time football. Didn't matter to him. He didn't worry about the helmet.
And the man who he replaced, one of the first to congratulate him, Barrett Neely back to work. 1st and 10 from the Lions 15. Play action fake. Rolling. Gets outside, contained, and will score! Barrett Neely's got 2 touchdowns.
You're going to have to contain Barrett Neely. You're going to have to stop him from running the football if you're the Lions and make him a pocket passer. And the entire province of Saskatchewan just erupted. Barrett Neely has the option to run or pass on the outside. Cameron Wake got caught in an inside move, and that shows you how strong of a runner Barrett Neely can be if he can get outside of the speed of Cameron Wake.
Well, he was described as a Casey Printers clone, as a high school phenom in Texas. Couple of touchdown runs today, and we're finding out why he is the number 2 man for the Stampeders. Extra point is through, and once again a 10-point Calgary lead. President's Choice Raptors basketball on TSN begins tonight. Chris Bosh and the Raptors travel to Milwaukee to take on the Bucks. Live coverage begins at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, and it's available at TSN HD.
Boy, Cameron Wake was on an island there against Barrett Neely. As he got outside, he's made this tackle many, many times. There he is right there, and because of the double team on Aaron Hunt, he gets hit hard in the line. He can't help Wake, and now Wake, if he stays outside and contain, he's got a chance. And turn Barrett Neely in. He tried an inside move to try and get there and make that tackle. Neely bounces outside, and then it's just a sprint to the end zone.
So 2 turnovers by the Lions here in the second half, third quarter, and the Stampeders have cashed with 2 touchdowns. Ian Smart at his 21. And Smart high steps to the 40. Buck Pierce has his work cut out for him this afternoon as the Lions try to claim second place in the West.
Well, and you heard Sarah at the beginning of the game talk about Buck Pierce and the fact that the Lions ideally would like to have had a lead in this football game so that they could put Jarius Jackson and maybe rest that ankle a little bit, but that's not the case here tonight. You're gonna have to go with Buck Pierce and see if they can fight their way back, and Wally Guano tried to contain his emotion.
Lions start at the 41, and Pierce complete up across the 50-yard line.
He's a little slow to get up there, Buck Pierce, and you know what's on the line for the BC Lions home field playoff now. On the bottom line for the football team, that's around $500,000 in revenues. That's what both Saskatchewan, that's why they're watching intently here, and that's what is on the line financially for these clubs to get that home playoff game. But the 13th man also a huge factor, especially with Mosaic Stadium, the way it's going there with all their sellouts.
Clarence Coleman had 10, and now Logan straight ahead, and he crosses midfield down to the Calgary 52. To see Wally Buono on the sidelines at McMahon, it struck me that 2001, he led the surprising Stamps that year from 3rd place through, winning a Western semi, a Western final, the Grey Cup in Montreal at Olympic Stadium. But you know he doesn't want to try to repeat that act through Regina and Calgary in 2008.
Well, that Saskatchewan defense so strong at home this year. Saw what they did to the Edmonton Eskimos a couple of weeks ago.
5 for Logan, 2nd and 5. Pierce for time, but it's running out on him. And he's going to take off. And Mike Labinjo meets him at the 50. About 1.5 yards short of the first down.
Well, Buck Pierce, after we talked about him and want to get him out as soon as they can, it has taken a couple of big hits. 2 plays ago, Mike Labinjo stepped into him after he dumps it off here to Clarence Coleman. That's another one. He goes down hard. It took him a while to sort of regroup from that and then had to run on the last play. It just seems like when Buck Pierce goes down awkwardly on that shoulder, it sort of gives him that shot of pain. Labinjo,
Calgary's top Canadian.
5 sacks on the season, 6 tackles for losses for Mike Labinjo.
3rd and 1.5 yards, and Wally Bono sends McCallum out to aim for the corner, and Marcus Howell has trouble with it. It's still loose, ball down, and it went off Jason Pottinger. And let's see if they're giving the Lions the football. I think Pottinger was the last man to touch it, and there'll be a long discussion about this.
I think he was too, and as long as he didn't intentionally try and kick it out.
Because it did go off his foot.
Yes, but you have to intentionally try and kick at it or make a kicking motion towards it. If he kicked it out intentionally, there's touch by Howell there, off the foot there of Pottinger.
No, that's not intentional.
And I don't think that's intentional at all. It's the last person to touch it. Unless you go to kick it intentionally, then it goes to the other team.
So there'll be a long meeting here, and I would only guess that no matter what the officials decide, somebody's going to throw the challenge flag, and you'll get to take a long look at it underneath the hood.
I think it'll be a challenge either way. You're right, Chris. I mean, no matter what the ruling is here, these coaches will want to take the refs to take a look at that.
Ruling on the field is BC players, the last player to touch the ball. It will be BC's ball, first down.
Well, that's the correct call based on the replays that we saw, because I don't think that Pottinger tried to deliberately kick at it, but you can see John Hufnagel wants the refs to go and take a look at it. I don't blame him for that.
No, when the ball's down at the 2 or 3, it's worth another look to make sure the officials did get it right. Marcus Howell shaken up. Jason Araki with first contact, and Jason Pottinger. And those two are battling for the special teams tackle lead, and they've been hustling downfield all day. And in this case, off Pottinger. Might have even hit the back heel of Araki, but certainly looks like a Lion was the last to touch it.
Well, the one look we showed you there, I mean, you saw it go off his ankle, and you're right, Jason Pottinger was going for the tackle, so he didn't even see the ball. I think it hit his foot as he's going out there, and that's not a deliberate kicking motion. So I think this call will stand.
And on that second or third look we had, it doesn't appear to have ricocheted off Howell either. There are the two battling out for both former McMaster Marauders.
Well, and with Jason Araki, I mean, just that's how you, when you're a rookie coming into the lineup, you contribute. Leading the Canadian Football League, and then that battle you're talking about for special teams tackles.
Well, there was a special teams error by Ian Smart earlier in the quarter that helped open up the lead, and John Hufnagel is discussing with Andre Proulx, and I believe the officials want him to pick up the challenge flag so he doesn't waste it. They think they made the right call, and
Calgary is challenging the ruling on the field that the ball was last touched by BC. We'll review the play.
They're not going to pick it up. They're going to.
Yeah. You know, Chris, there is this that the officials will still, on the sideline, they will still explain the situation with the coach. They also want to know exactly what they're trying to challenge and what they're looking at. But as it moves forward, it'd be nice to see that to speed the process, that the officials go to the sideline, say, what are you challenging? Let's go. Done. You know, and get under the hood and take a look.
Because it's 3 minutes before they even get under the hood. And the Calgary defense, the BC Lions offense on the field. And that's the way it will be unless Andre Proulx sees something that we did not.
Well, first of all, they want to see to make sure that it was Pottinger that is the last to touch it. That's first. Now, if they saw it was a deliberate kicking motion by Pottinger in there, they could give it back to Calgary. But again, Araki makes the play, because if he doesn't make this hit here on Marcus Howell, then we're not talking about this. Howell recovers it right there on the 5-yard line.
Marcus Howell's had a good year returning kicks. That's a rare mistake, but could be a costly one here with 2:02 remaining in the third quarter.
Okay, now Howell touches it with his hand there. Now, right there again is where it goes off the ankle. You can see Pottinger is not even looking down at the football. He's looking at Howell and trying to get involved in that hit. It goes off his ankle, and I don't think it touched anyone else on its way out after that. This should be fairly cut and dry.
What a good year it's been for the rookie Jason Araki. Came in with 29 special team tackles, at least one in this game. Dad was a teammate of Wally Bono's and was the top Canadian in 1984. I asked Wally if he felt a little older coaching a guy like that. And he mentioned he's coached Willie Hampton's son in Calgary and Junior Ayu's son. So the next generation's here, and Jason Araki making his mark.
You consider the BC Lions have 3 of the top 4 special team tacklers. Jamal Johnson, Jason Pottinger, and Jason Araki.
Andre Prue has emerged with the verdict.
After reviewing the play, the BC player, the ball hit his leg unintentionally. Therefore, BC was the last player to touch the ball before it went out of bounds. It will be BC's ball, first down at the 5.5-yard line.
Calgary fans don't like that call because I'm certain there's confusion as to whether or not if it goes off your foot, it's automatically the other team's ball. That's not the case. The rule is you have to make an intentional kicking motion towards it, and if you do then, it goes over to the other team.
The only thing John Hufnagel got out of that is they have moved the ball from the original spot at the 4 to the 5.5, so the challenge was worth 1.5 yards of tough real estate, but not what John Hufnagel wanted to hear. First and goal. And Buck Pierce looking for Logan, and it's a touchdown, BC. Out of the backfield into the end zone for Stefan Logan.
Stefan Logan lines up the tailback spot and uses his speed. He's right there to outflank the defense, and this is not an easy throw from Buck Pierce because all he sees is a sliver of the shoulder pad from Stefan Logan, and he had to stick a fork in that one to pull it in as it was outside and wide.
Been a good day for Logan. And McCallum the extra point, and once again it closes up to a 3-point game. TSN, the home of the NFL. Sunday Night Football continues this weekend. The Patriots take on the Colts. Coverage beginning at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. Monday Night Football, it's the Steelers and Redskins with coverage again 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. So one play after the Marcus Howell fumble.
Well, there's Logan again, and the guy who's got to cover him is Salim Rashid, the linebacker. So that's where they line up inside, and that's why the Lions will put Stefan Logan in the backfield. But then if you go to this other angle, watch Stefan Logan now. Because the guy covering him is 43 Rashid, he comes from the middle, and you can see he's automatically in a chase position by a lineman. That's why Logan is able to outflank him and get in the end zone.
And Marcus Howell is being taken to the locker room. So that's a injury to be concerned about for the Calgary Stampeders. Here's Summers with a good return in his place up to the 44. 37-yard return.
There hasn't been an intensity issue with Stefan Logan.
No.
He came ready to play, and you know when he sat down for a couple of games that's on the back of his mind. You're as good as your last game in professional football, and
And Calgary going through their roster of quarterbacks. Will Proctor into the game, the number 3 man after Derek Neely scored a couple of touchdowns. Off the right side, John Cornish to midfield. Another 10-yard plus run for John Cornish.
Calgary Stampeders started out the year with Ben Sankey as their backup quarterback. Derek Neely was 3. Will Proctor was off the roster over the last couple of weeks. And Derek Neely, around mid-season, started to win that number 2 spot.
Just a minute to go in the third quarter. So Derek Neely didn't even get a full quarter. Put up a couple of touchdowns. That was enough. John Cornish straight ahead.
This one is a bit puzzling, though, Chris. And the reason I say that is just that, you know, there's two schools of thought. One is John Hufnagel needs to get Henry Burris out of the game so he doesn't get him hurt in a game that doesn't mean anything in the standings. He's done that. Okay, that's part of it. The other equation is you get your number 2 some reps in that just-in-case scenario, like Mark Trestman did in the Montreal Alouettes when they sat down Anthony Calvillo and played Marcus Brady the entire way. Now, it's a little bit puzzling in that Derek Neely is going to be the guy that would have to play if Burris got hurt in the West Final. And he's not getting reps now. That's a little surprising.
And he's only had a couple of games of reps this year. Proctor to the gun, and Kenyon Rambo a catch and gets away. Kenyon Rambo down at the 1, but a big gain for Rambo, getting close to claiming the receiving title. It's a 50-yard gain for Rambo. Final play, third quarter, and a big one. Third quarter stats brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
Both teams over 300 yards offensively. We've seen some play on the special teams. The race between Kenyon Rambo and G-Roy Simon looks like that last play gives Kenyon Rambo a big lead.
So if you were upset in Saskatchewan that Henry Burris was pulled at the half, 2 touchdowns for Derek Neely, and now Will Proctor comes in, and now they're knocking at the door again.
Yeah, it's a little surprising to see Will Proctor come in and not let Derek Neely get those extra reps, but it doesn't seem to matter for the Calgary Stampeders because Kenyon Rambo right now with that big play in the open field, he breaks some tackles. And this secondary for the BC Lions this year has been an interesting group because they'll make the big play, but they'll also give up the big play this year.
A 50-yard play. Derek Neely comes in the short yardage situation. First and goal from the 1. And it will be Neely dropping back and scoring. And some late shots after Neely hits pay dirt for the 3rd time in the game.
And the 2nd time in the game that the BC Lions,
and it's escalating here with penalty markers all over the end zone. Aaron Hunt in a lather. John Cornish looked like he took a shot after Neely landed in the end zone, and he's heated up. And Aaron Hunt with the response. And Andre Proulx doesn't want to hear any evidence from either side.
No. Second time on a run that Derek Neely has made the contain man miss. I think that last one was Jamal Johnson, but he was caught for a 4 or 5 yard loss. And then that second touchdown run, not the quarterback sneak, but the second one, he got outside of Cameron Wake. And that's saying something.
Well, all kinds of orange nylon in the end zone, but I don't believe any of the flags were tossed until after Neely hit pay dirt, but we'll wait for Andre Proulx's confirmation.
Illegal contact on a receiver BC number 97. That penalty is declined. After the play, major foul, unnecessary roughness. BC number 90, 15-yard penalty will be applied on the kickoff.
So Brent Johnson's penalty didn't matter. Aaron Hunt's will have an impact on the kickoff, and the touchdown for Neely stands.
And watch Jamal Johnson here has a chance at Barrett Neely in the backfield. This time he does take that outside route, so he turns him back into. And I know Johnson is thinking he'd like to see some help from his friends, but Barrett Neely beats all that help to the end zone.
I saw Brent Johnson tackle Teo Johnson. That was the initial penalty. Extra point through. 38-28. Stamps. We're in the first minute of the fourth quarter. Here's why Aaron Hunt gets the 15 yards tacked onto the kickoff for a pretty good right hook on John Cornish.
I think they're going to let the pushing and shoving go, but that roundhouse right drew a flag.
I thought you said you remember, come on. That's what I thought you said.
Ian Smart takes the kickoff at his 10. And at the 25-yard line, he'll be wrestled down. Jabari Arthur in on the cover team. What a day for Barrett Neely, who came in without a CFL touchdown and now has a hat trick.
That's another reason why it's a little puzzling that they took him out, because he was moving the football. He took advantage of some turnovers with BC Lions. This was the nice run where he got in outside of Cameron Wake, got into the end zone, and then another one outside of Jamal Johnson. Or I should say, coming onto the inside lane from Jamal Johnson.
A lot of Johnsons out there. Brent Johnson tackled Teo Johnson. Jamal Johnson didn't tackle. That was a pass for G-Roy Simon. Batted down, almost picked off by Shannon James.
G-Roy Simon became defensive back there. He had to knock it out of the hands of Shannon James. He took a peek and saw he had a better position to the football than G-Roy did. So here he is. He gets inside. That's just a jam because it's zone. It's not his man, so he goes to the area, but there's Shannon James.
So it's been a long day for the Lions and for G-Roy Simon. Down by 60 after that 50-yard catch to set up the last Calgary touchdown by Kenyon Rambo. 2nd and 10. Need a big Simon play, need a big play period, and that pass incomplete, and Clarence Coleman crunched over the middle.
Juwan Armour stepped into him, and he's slow to get up. Juwan Armour. Coleman's going to come into the inside, and Juwan Armour in that zone defense. You see Michael Binjo dropping from defensive end too, which you don't see very often.
Now, if that was hockey, they'd call that a suicide pass, because he was in the trolley tracks.
Yeah, and it doesn't change in football. It's basically what it is. It's a great big break by Juwan Armour.
And more tempers flaring. Otis Floyd with an earful for Juwan Armour. And while Coleman gets attention, we'll step out. Still not sure where we'll be, but we know we will be on hand for the Wendy's Western semifinal. The Rough Riders and the Lions either at Mosaic if this score stands, or at BC Place Stadium if the Lions can rally in the last 13:24 of this game. Rough Riders set up this position with their fourth quarter comeback in Toronto. That was partially gift-wrapped late.
Yeah,
but it was an impressive comeback nonetheless.
That's being kind.
I don't think Calgary's going to be as generous today. Demetrius Summers on the return. Tossed down. There's Jason Pottinger with another special teams tackle as he continues his battle along with teammate Jason Araki. And the tempers flaring on either side just about every play now.
A little frustration from the BC Lions, who, you know, once Calgary Stampeders took Henry Burris out, they must have been thinking on that bench that now's the time to make our move, and they've been behind in this entire game. They just can't seem to get that lead. They get to within 3, and then Calgary finds an answer.
Will Proctor back in. Last pass, a 50-yarder, and now a handoff to Summers, dropped in the backfield. Corey Banks, good defensive play. Let's join Sarah Orleski.
Chris, a bye week is something that the Calgary Stampeders, many of them have not had the opportunity to enjoy yet in their career. Henry Burris told me that during the regular season, a bunch of them had gotten away from the city to take a few days off. He said that will not be the case this time around. They have made they've had a consensus that they will all be staying in town or near Calgary. Now, they will also all be joining together. He said the plan is for all the families to get together and have a cookout and watch the West semifinal.
Last Western final here in Calgary was 2000. Will Proctor could run, and he's across midfield. Diving short of the first down. Looks like he'll be within a yard. And just to finish that, remember 2000, the Western final. Grey Cup to be in Calgary, and the BC Lions spoiled that party.
Well, there's no question there's a new sheriff in Cowtown. And John Hufnagel has reined this team in and has done it all season long. Did it at the start of training camp. There will be no Tony Romos down to Mexico in the bye week or any of that. He wants his team to remain focused and continue to come in, watch film. He'll probably give them some time to rest physically, but mentally you want to keep sharp. So a candidate for Coach of the Year, John Hufnagel.
There are strong candidates for that award this season. Birkdale's to punt and try and pin the Lions deep here.
Time count violation. Calgary number 16, 5-yard penalty. It remains third down.
I think they were short a guy.
And yes, they were. LaMarcus Rowell comes out, and that probably the spot that John Simpson had occupied until he was injured.
Craig Dickinson is the special teams coordinator, and tough to keep track sometimes. One injury can affect a lot of different special teams.
Good kick from the 4. Ian Smart with the return up to the 20, so a decent return, and a little extra after that tackle as well.
Well, have you ever seen at this point in the ball game the stats, rushing, passing, total yards, bang on equal?
That is unbelievable. And yet there's a 10-point difference on the scoreboard. Lions in arrears. Stefan Logan trying to change that. And if there's any doubt about the run game in BC, I think that's been answered today.
Which will be important if they have to, especially if they have to go on the road into Mosaic Stadium in that semifinal and can't come back in this game. Then the running game, and who knows what will be the weather conditions there in a week, will be that much more important for both teams.
What an afternoon it's been. Approaching 900 yards on the season. Is he going to throw this? Taking a look, and does, and almost picked Dwight Anderson. Almost had a spectacular interception. And Logan may be a better running back than a quarterback.
Yeah, you know what, though? We saw a shot of Stefan Logan warming up, throwing the ball on the sideline. And I thought he was just playing catch with the quarterbacks back there and just sort of being, but he was warming up his arm.
Yes, that's right. We did see him on the sidelines while the game was on, and there he is.
Yeah, he was over there just warming up his arm, just a little subtly. Yeah, don't worry about me.
So we thought it was Zach Champion maybe, but it's Stefan Logan throwing the tight spiral there.
Talk amongst yourself. I'm just tossing over here.
That gives the defenses something else to think about. 2nd and 10. Now it'll be Buck Pierce to throw. And overthrowing G. Roy Simon, but taking what looks like a late hit. And it is roughing the passer against the Stamps to extend the drive.
Yeah, and let's see this hit because he's taken a couple of these, and this is the concern. I think it was Eddie Freeman.
Major foul. On roughing the passer, Calgary 97, 15-yard penalty, first down.
He's taken a couple in this game and then taken a bunch throughout the year because, as we mentioned earlier, he will hold on to the ball. Now, G. Simon at the other end had broken off his route, so we're going to complete it, but ball gone. And then a couple things. Freeman hits him at one side. He also gets hit in the ear hole from the backside.
Well, it has been a painful season at times for Buck Pearson. I think he takes more punishment against Calgary than anybody else, but it is a first down. He has time. Wide open, Ryan Grice-Mullen, and Pierce off target, and that might be a signal to Wally Buono, because he couldn't have had, well, I guess he's thinking Grice-Mullen and the quarterback weren't on the same page,
yeah.
But he did look wide open.
Well, there's two things here, Chris. There's the difference between a post, which is this, or a post seam, which is this. And you make a little bit of an inside move on a post seam, or you run a post, which is hard across the middle on a 45-degree angle. Buck Pierce wanted the post seam.
And now they take a
illegal substitution. 13 men in the formation. BC, this is a 10-yard penalty. Second down repeated.
Lions were trying to take a timeout because they realized they had an extra man on the field, but too late. Costly penalty.
He wanted to try and call a timeout because he realized he had the problem with the formation and he couldn't get it done before the flag came out. And you can see that there's the substitution.
So 2nd and 20. Just inside the line, 50. And Buck Pierce underneath has a completion to midfield to O'Neal Wilson. And he gets stacked up there well short. And another late hit. This one on Shirko Haji Razuli. And the extracurricular is turning out to be a regular occurrence here in the second half. And was this Haji Razuli first or a retaliation call against Calgary, which could give BC another first down? Like the guard was out cruising and then he ended up being hit at the end of the play.
Yeah, you know, I will say this, that
both fouls occurred after the play. Major foul, unnecessary roughness, BC number 55. Major foul, unnecessary roughness, Calgary number 27. Both fouls are offsetting, third down.
In that case, they do get both, not just the retaliator, and they offset Browner and Haji Razuli.
Well, I will say this, Chris, that this kind of stuff that's gone on in this game, especially in the second half here, it's one thing in this game, last game of the regular season. It's another if this happens for either of these coaches in the playoffs. You just cannot afford penalties after the whistle in the playoffs.
Paul McCallum kicks it away. And Summers takes it on a couple of hops and is dropped immediately. And once again, Iraqi and Pottinger fighting over the special teams tackle. And
are they the only two on the cover team?
They're the only two in line for the bonus at the end of the year for the leader. And maybe they've got a deal worked out to split it.
While the ball was in the air, Calgary number 27, half the distance to the goal, first down.
Brandon Browner was called on a holding while the ball was in flight.
That's consecutive penalties on Browner on consecutive plays. And Calgary's going to start back at their 5. So Stampeders lead by 10 with 9:01 to go, but still lots of time.
Oh, lots of time. And, the Calgary Stampeders are certainly not playing this game like it doesn't mean anything to them. There's been intensity. There's been stuff after the whistle. The Calgary Stampeders have improved dramatically on the defense in their penalties taken this year. Still ranked 7th, which I know it's an area they'd like to improve, but they're better by about 500 yards.
From the 5, handoff inside Summers, and not much there as he runs into the teeth of the defense. Brent Johnson, Tyrone Williams there.
That sets up a passing down from Calgary, or at the, well, if they want to go sprint draw or quarterback draw, that's a possibility, but it plays into the hands of the secondary. And this BC secondary has been a all or nothing secondary in a lot of ways this year. They will make the big play, the interception for a touchdown. They lead in interceptions, have the leader in Baron Miles, and yet they've given up big plays.
Second down, pressure on Proctor, sprints out, there's going to be a holding call against Calgary. Proctor stopped short at the 11, so likely to see the penalty decline.
Means Bert Dales will be standing at least 5, probably more yards in his end zone to punt this football, and you know what that means.
Holding, Calgary number 67. Penalties decline, 3rd down.
And it's interesting, 10-point game that'd make it 8 with the anticipated safety, so the Lions could be within a touchdown and a 2-point convert.
And there's wind, but very little wind. And what wind there is at the back of Bert Dales.
But you're right, Dales has kicked the ball well, one of the leaders in the league. He does have a slight breeze at his back, so do you let him go here, or does he put down a knee?
I would kick this football, but
the fact they've just taken a time count would indicate they're planning to concede the safety.
Time count violation, Calgary number 16, 5-yard penalty. It remains 3rd down.
By the way, Bert Dales was averaging 44 yards a punt in this game.
That becomes the automatic play of the year for in the Canadian Football League, is the automatic safety anytime your punter's in the end zone. It'll give the BC Lions the 2 points, and they'll either take the ball or they will have the Calgary Stampeders kick off to them. But 7:31 is lots of time left in this game.
Especially when the team leading is using their number 3 quarterback and the team trailing is scrapping for everything they've got to get a home playoff date. Not sure why we're conferring at the time bench, maybe to reset the clock. And so they put 6 seconds back on the clock. And while we're talking about getting it down to 8 and perhaps tying, Lions have to win.
Yeah, they have to win.
Yeah, tie won't help them. And a BC win today would also set up another oddity, or maybe a sign of what kind of year it's been. All 4 teams in the West would be 5-5 against each other, which is, I guess, the best sign of the parity we've seen in the West this season. So Dales to try and kill a few extra seconds, and he does get down before he takes a hit, and it is now 38-30 for the Calgary Stampeders. And wired for sound for this game for TSN is Cameron Wake.
His first step is as good as it gets. I mean, his get off, where he gets that power, he just, like he's a cannon shot out of a gun. He just comes out of his stance like no one I've seen.
22 sacks on the year. This is his 6th multi-sack game of the season. Lions take it at their own 35. Pierce play action. Has lots of time, but nobody open. And now dumps it off. Logan! Drilled by Milton Collins. And Logan pops up. Another big-time collision in this game, and there's been a few. And Logan smiles about it.
The running backs are used to it. He's got that rotation, a couple interceptions versus Saskatchewan a few weeks back. Got him into a rotation at safety with Wes Lysak.
7 for Logan, 2nd and 3. Short drop, quick hitter. And first down for Geroy Simon. Doesn't cut into the Rambo reception lead too much. 5 yards for Geroy and 55 yards behind.
Yeah, 55 yards behind Kenyon Rambo.
And you know that's potentially one play when you're considering it's number 81 we're dealing with.
And considering the way Calgary will play defense and get up and press.
First down. Pump one way, looks the other, and now underneath Logan. And Stephon Logan with another burst. Down to the 35.
And this time he lowers his helmet and shoulder pads and runs into Milton Collins at the end of this one. Milton Collins had that big hit on him. He's the guy who just is the check down man for Buck Pierce. As he drops him, runs out of time, drops it over the middle. Now watch at the end of the play. Logan becomes the hammer. And Collins nail right there, number 14, gets knocked back.
Boy, he has been something today. Stephon Logan. I'll take a break. Smart comes in. 28 yards for Logan, a first down. And this pass is picked off. Milton Collins has it. He's had a couple of end zone interceptions, and now this one just as big inside the 5.
And Buck Pierce got locked into Geroy Simon. He didn't want to peek. He didn't want to look at him and give it away. But he gets locked in. He's going there all the way. You see how he tries to hold the safety, but they played 2 of them. Milton Collins was on half the field, and they had a deep man on the other half as well. So Simon has to get around the bump from Brandon Browner. But Browner knows one thing. He's got deep help. So almost a triple team on Geroy Simon, and just a throw that Buck Pierce should never have made.
So Collins had an active series with the big hit. Took one and then stole one from Buck Pierce. Calgary takes over inside the 5. Barrett Neely back in, and he runs them out of trouble. Up to the 22. With less than 5 minutes to go, Barrett Neely. The second half he's had.
Outstanding rookie, the nominee for the Calgary Stampeders as the outstanding rookie. Gets the big block to open this up right there on Tyrone Williams. He gets that block, and that's the lane that Barrett Neely takes. Brett Johnson can't get back and make the tackle, and it's not until Baron Miles gets there.
And Neely again will pull it down. And up to the 34-yard line for Barrett Neely. Another Calgary first down.
So he's had one right up the middle, one to the outside. Now, which way do the BC Lions play it defensively? They have to try and keep him in, but they can't open the inside run lanes too much. He's already got close to that 50 yards he had in the first game he played in the pros in 07.
But he's in a slump because his first 3 runs were all for touchdowns, and now he's last 2. He's come up without one. But Mike Benavides trying to figure out how to stop. Number 17. First and 10. Take to Summers. Cameron Wake.
Yeah.
There again, and now he has 3 sacks, 23 on the year.
And did you see what he learned? Remember that Barrett Neely touchdown when he got outside of Cameron Wake? Now watch, it's the same scenario exactly. And right there's Cameron Wake And this time, watch how he plays it. Rather than gambling on an inside lane, he stays wide and outside. Here he comes. He's got the same scenario, and he goes, I'm staying wide. If you're going to run anywhere, you're going to go inside, and that's where he tracks him down. So he learns from that touchdown run.
3-minute warning given to the benches with the Stamps up by 8. Our game story brought to you by Molson Canadian. This is our beer.
Henry Burris got a first half of football, got himself to 5,000 yards. The Rambo-Simon race continues. Rambo has a 55-yard lead. Big game for Stephon Logan, but will it be enough?
210 yards, and now 2nd and 16. Barrick Neely does throw, looking for Rambo up top, and he was out of bounds. And Dante Marsh was stride for stride. So the Lions will get the ball back here with 2:46 on the clock.
Cameron Wake now has 23 sacks, 3 in this game, and that ties him with Greg Stuman, a former BC Lion back in 1987, who also had 23. And with his 23rd, Cameron Wake has just passed James Curry, James Parker in 86, Alfred Payton in 93, and Bobby Juris in 87. They all had 22 that year. Of course, James Parker in BC in 84 had 26.5, which is the all-time record.
The marks on that helmet, they must have to paint that one every week.
A few battle scars there.
Wow. Burkdales, we've got markers down again. High, not deep. Smart fields it, 43-yard line. Sidesteps one wave and will get wrestled down by Randy Chevrier at the 50. But there are markers down on the play, and procedure the call against Calgary likely to be declined. BC's got pretty good field position here.
Yeah, they do. And the offense making its way on the field.
And it's 2 scores away.
Illegal procedure. Calgary, only 6 men on the line of scrimmage. That penalty's decline. First down, BC.
2 scores away, but is it possible that we'd wait for game 72 to get an overtime game in 2008?
Well, it's been some kind of season. The parity in the West has been unbelievable. As you mentioned earlier, we've seen some very, very exciting football games all season long. This, the last of the regular season, and why not?
Buck Pierce has got some work to do. Needs a game-time touchdown and 2-point convert. Out of the backfield, Logan for more yards. Kicks it outside and then stops the clock at the 47-yard line. Logan has 13 more, 223 all-purpose or combined yards from scrimmage in this game.
Well, he really has, and the Buck Pierce doesn't have to force it down the field. He doesn't have to try and go for it in one throw. I'm sure he's learned from trying to force it to Geroy Simon that was intercepted by Milton Collins on the last series.
Logan, potentially a 100-yard game. 100 rushing already, 83 passing. Buck Pierce, Paris Jackson, almost picked off. Shannon James, who's been tracking Jackson all day, makes the defensive play.
Yeah, I get that at 2-1. Paris Jackson with the layered crossing route, basically coming right over the middle here like this. And Shannon James in that trail position. You see close when the ball arrived. Jackson has the one play, the one touchdown, but James has 2 knockdowns on him now.
Thinking the Lions need maybe 5 yards to get into McCallum field goal range. They want more. They're not going to get it. Incomplete, intended for O'Neal Wilson. So 54-yard, potentially, Paul McCallum field goal attempt. But with 2:18 to go, do you just try and pin Calgary deep?
You know, it's right on that bubble time. You know, it's...
Or do you gamble on 3rd down, which is what Wally Bono's indicating?
Well, first of all, you need that perfect punt. And it's in that bubble time. If you have another 40, 50 seconds, you probably kick it.
I'm a little surprised. 3rd and 10. Pierce steps up. Will he take off? Not going to get there. Taken down by Juwan Armour. Well short. And it's a turnover on downs, the 4th turnover of the day for the BC Lions.
You know that Buck Pierce, when he sees the defense and everyone bail, including Juwan Armour, knows he just has 3-man pressure, so that's why he wants to go ahead and run around, but he just had too far to get to cross that line of scrimmage. Had he stayed behind the line and run laterally, he could have maybe opened up a receiver.
Mr. Buono has forgotten more about football than I'll ever know,
Yeah.
but I would have punted and tried to pin him.
No, I know, and it's in that bubble time. Seriously, you get another 30 seconds, and I agree with you, but...
Here's Summers. And Summers with a good run, tripped up. I mean, the worst-case scenario of not hitting them inside the 10 is that you get a single point, make it a 7-point game. But here you not only turn it over on downs, but you give a lot of yards in field position.
Yeah, if that's the way it works, but what if you get the first down?
You're right, but
I'll put it to you this way, it was a much closer call than
Holding.
the fake punt in
Calgary,
Toronto.
number 86. 10-yard penalty. Still first down.
well, a holding call is a costly one against Calgary. That'll back it up a little bit to the 32. There it is on Teo Johnson as he collars Corey Banks. So 1st and 20, 2:05 left. And the Stampeders want a timeout.
Well, and the clock just ran off.
Timeout.
4 or 5 more seconds.
Calgary.
And is still running.
So they'll have to go over and reset the clock again.
One of the biggest improvements that John Hufnagel's team has shown this year is their giveaway takeaway ratio, and that's one of the reasons they are hosting the Western Final. Just a tremendous improvement over a year ago, and the giveaways, dramatic difference.
And if you want to know if the Lions are going to win or lose, it usually is on turnovers. They're 11-1 when they win the turnover battle, 0-5 when they lose. Barrett Neely, quarterback draw, wide open, first down. That may be a dagger. And we now know a whole lot more about Barrett Neely than we did a week ago.
And you hear that thunderous roar coming from that Prairie province
that sells out every game and may sell out a semifinal.
The phones are ringing at Mosaic Stadium. It's not over yet. There is still time, but that play may have done it.
Since Henry Burris left the game, they've thrown the ball 3 times, Calgary. Demetrius Summers off the left side, and why would you throw when you're running like this? Summers with 17.
Let's go back to the biggest play of the game for the Calgary Stampeders right now. And again, I want to show you a young rookie who is just playing tremendous football. I mentioned the outstanding nominee as the rookie, and look what he does to Tyrone Williams. He locks him up, drives him, pushes him open. That's the middle of the defense. He collapses that. Barrett Neely takes it and goes right down Main Street.
Rookie nominee, the number 2 pick in the 08 draft. A lot of people wondered about Calgary's offensive line even before the season, and here they are running the football with abandon against the Lions with a couple of different guys in today with the injury to Ben Archibald. Jesse Newman taking the week off to nurse some injuries. First and 10, 95 seconds left. Summers stacked up this time. But they are in field goal range. Poised to make it more than a touchdown and a 2-point convert.
Remember that field goal in Edmonton you mentioned earlier in the game that Cameron Wake got to. That was an important field goal. The Lions had that game won, but it was for the season series, and he just skied in the middle and knocked it down.
He's been the best Lion today.
We're down away from seeing if he can get another one.
Neely pulls it, and Jerome Dennis was there to make the defensive play. Behind the line of scrimmage, or maybe right at the line of scrimmage. And so with 1:11 to go, the field goal unit will come on. Sandro DeAngelis.
Sandro DeAngelis gets a little more elevation in his kicks. He's right off the tee, but Cameron Wake usually will line up right in the middle. And he's one of the few football players on the planet that can block a kick from behind the line of scrimmage.
DeAngelis will attempt a 42-yarder. If successful, it would be his 50th of the season. And it might clinch Saskatchewan second place in the West. Not sure the Lions aren't lining up offside here. DeAngelis puts it up and puts it through. The Stampeders within 48 seconds of their 13th win of the year. Time for the TSN turning point.
38-30, one-score game and a 2-point convert. Buck Pierce had the ball, the Calgary side of midfield, and forced it into triple coverage when Milton Collins intercepted that. That pretty much did it.
The TSN turning point brought to you by the 2008 GMC Sierra Professional Grade. Calgary was 17 points off turnovers. Buck Pierce and Ryan Grace Mullen steps out of bounds. Sandro DeAngelis now with 217 points on the year. That's a career best. John Hufnagel feels pretty comfortable right now as his team will go out winning here and really make a statement again. With 2 weeks to prepare for the Wendy's Western Final. Kenyon Rambo sitting on a 55-yard lead. Pierce rolling. Labinjo with pressure and another completion to Grace Mullen. 37 seconds on the clock.
And it looks like the BC Lions will travel to Saskatchewan in that semifinal. And Calgary Stampeders this year will have swept Wally Buono's BC Lions.
Stampeders 7-11 a year ago. Poised to be 13-5. Second and 5. Flag down, another Grace Mullen catch. And they'll mark him out at the 41. Marker on the play.
And if they think it was hostile territory to try and win this one, the BC Lions next week, you can almost guarantee it'll be a sellout.
Offside. BC number 81. 5-yard penalty. Still second down.
Leroy Simon offside.
Saskatchewan beat BC in week 2. Lost to BC in game 3. And again in game 11. But that defense in Mosaic is tough.
And Ryan Grace Mullen will change his speed there to step out at the 45-yard line. There's only 24 seconds left.
The other side of that too, Chris, is the weather factor, and you know the wind. We just finished a game recently in in Regina that there was about an 80-kilometer wind. You never know, and Saskatchewan wind is often a factor. And I always believe when you have a real wind game, a windy game, it favors the defense. If you have a strong defense in a wind game, because the quarterbacks struggle with the wind.
Buck Pierce trying to pull out a miracle here. Coleman steps out. 18 seconds left. That took 6 seconds as they methodically work it downfield, but they need a touchdown and a short kick to have even any hope. But I think hope left on the 3rd and 10 miss gamble.
Well, I'm sure that will be talked about, but again, I think it was pretty close time-wise.
And this has been a 60-minute. There's O'Neal Wilson with another catch. It's been 60 minutes where the Lions really didn't look like the team we expected to see today, intensity-wise. Wally Buono talked about that with Sarah Orlesky at halftime, and in the 3rd quarter, it seemed to be even more listless when Barrick Neely came in and scored 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, with the exception of Cam Wake and Stephon Logan on offense, I would agree. I think that, you saw a team that sort of took a while to get going. They gave up some big plays on the defensive side, too. A couple quarterback draws to a backup, and Barrick Neely really hurt him late in this game.
G. Simon held to 2 catches, 9 yards, second half. And there's a catch made by Logan trying to get out, and 2 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, but last time I checked, there was an 11-point score.
Yeah. A lot of things can happen in the late stages of a CFL game, but not that much.
Not that much.
Saskatchewan, you're going to finish second, and it is going to be raucous at Mosaic Stadium on Saturday. Hobson, I'm sure, is smiling right now.
Well, it's like I mentioned earlier, it's $500,000 on the bottom line.
See, the Rough Rider fans are, saddling up to Stampeder fans here. They're all in it together. Buck Pierce, and that one batted down. Final play of the game. The Calgary Stampeders have won the West in the regular season. An impressive year for first-year coach John Hufnagel. 13-5 record, and he beats his mentor today and forces Wally Buono and the Lions into 3rd place in the CFL West. The Wendy's Western semifinal will be at Mosaic Stadium, Saskatchewan to BC next Saturday. 41-30 the final score here today at McMahon. Corey Warren standing by with SportsCenter. So long from Calgary.